it either in the House or the Senate.
John just said in one sentence there, impeach Bush and Cheney. You're talking about taking that axe against the head of government, both of them.
No, it's not an act.
No, we're
talking about an act. It's not. Impeachment is not a criminal proceeding.
You are saying
we cannot entrust the reins of power, unchecked power, with these people. They're untrustworthy. They're asserting theories of government that are monarchical. We don't want them to exercise it. We don't want Hillary Clinton or Rudy Giuliani or anyone in the future to exercise
you
that
are
power.
making the mistake. You are making the mistake that too many people make.
Yes.
You are seeing impeachment as a constitutional crisis. Impeachment is the cure for a constitutional crisis. Don't mistake the medicine for the disease. When you have a constitutional crisis, the founders are very clear. They said there is a way to deal with this. We don't have to have a war. We don't have to raise an army and go to Washington. We have procedures in place where we can sanction a president appropriately, do what needs to be done, up to the point of removing him from office, and continue the republic. So we're not talking here about taking an axe to government. Quite the opposite. We are talking about applying some necessary, strong medicine that may cure not merely the crisis of the moment, but done right.
Moreover,
Done right might
it's
actually
not an attack on Bush and Cheney in the sense of a personal attack. Listen, if you impeach them, they can live happily ever after.
Then they can go to San Clemente.
Yeah, they go to San Clemente or go back to the ranch or whatever. But it's saying, no, it's the Constitution that's more important than your aggrandizement of power.
Yes.
And not just for you, because the precedent that would be set would bind every successor in the presidency as well, no matter Republican, Democrat, Independent, or otherwise.
The fact of the matter is that, again, the genius of impeachment is it tells the president that, wow, there is a Congress, and that Congress is on your case. And it causes, I think at its best, it causes a president to want to prove he can cooperate, to want to prove he can live within the law.
Both of you have talked. Can I interrupt just a second here? This seems to me very important. I think that if impeachment proceedings began and the president and the vice president sat back and said, we understand now we've overreached, we renounce this claim, we're no military commissions, we're going to comply with the law, the impeachment proceedings ought to stop, and they should. It's not trying to be punitive and retributive against the officials, but you've got to get it right. And it's that what I hope would happen. I've said, if the president now renounces the power and says it was wrong, and I now respect and honor the separation and the genius of the Founding Fathers, that's great. And all of the purpose of impeachment would have been accomplished. They could stay in office, and we'd have the greatest precedent with regard to executive authority and the separation of powers and checks and balances. This is not an effort to try to blacken the names of the president and vice president. And nothing would gratify me more than having them stand up and say, yeah, I've thought about this now. My mind is concentrated wonderfully, as Sam Johnson would say. The prospect of impeachment, I've been convinced.
But also, we would have hit that educational moment, that rare moment, where a president of the United States has been forced to go before the American people and say, oh yeah, I just remembered, you're the boss. You are the bosses, not me, and that I am not a king. Again, this is why raising impeachment at this point, this very late point, is so important, because we are defining what the presidency will be in the future today, because we do know the high crimes and misdemeanors of George Bush and Dick Cheney. They have been well illustrated, even by a rather lax media. They have been discussed in Congress. If we know these things and we do not hold them to account, then we are saying, as a people and as a Congress, we are saying that we can find out that you have violated the rule of law. We can find out that you have disregarded the Constitution. We can find out that you've done harm to the Republic, but there will still be no penalty for that. If that's the standard that we set, it will hold. It will not be erased in the future.
One of the lessons we should have learned from the Nixon impeachment was that it didn't quite fulfill its purpose, because Nixon was never compelled to renounce what he'd done.
Yes.
And afterwards he boasted that if the president does it, illegal. He wasn't repentant at all. If we had insisted, maybe as a condition of the pardon or otherwise, you need to repent. We are a government of laws, not of man. And it's wrong for anyone to assert unchecked power. That would have had such a pedagogical effect that would have deterred anything in the future. We've got to make certain this time around we get that proper acknowledgement from the public officials.
There was a group of members, Democratic members of the House, who went to Tip O'Neill and to the leaders of the House back in 1974, after Nixon had resigned, and said, we must continue the impeachment process. It is, under the Constitution, certainly appropriate to do so, and we must continue it because we have to close the circle on presidential power. And the leaders in Congress, the Democratic leaders in Congress at the time said, no, the country has suffered too much. Well, this is the problem. Our leaders treat us as children. They think that we cannot handle a serious dialogue about the future of our republic, about what it will be and how it will operate. And so, to an extent, we begin to act like children. We, follow other interests. We decide to be entertained rather than to be citizens. Well, as Bruce makes frequent reference to the fall of the Roman Empire, that's the point at where the fall comes. It doesn't come because of a bad leader. It doesn't come because of a dysfunctional Congress. It comes when the people accept that role of the child or of the subject and are no longer citizens. And so I think this moment becomes so very, very important because we know the high crimes and misdemeanors. The people themselves have said, if the polls are correct, that something ought to be done. If nothing is done, if we do not step forward at this point, if we do not step up to this point, then we have frankly told the people, you can even recognize that the king has no clothes, but we're not going to put any clothes on him. And at that point, the country is in very, very dire circumstances.